3, 2, 1, and we're live. Everybody out there in the chat waiting patiently, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've actually got a B-side with very special guest, KillaKev from the DMV Action Figure Society and Art by KillaKev. Good, make sure to check him out on Instagram. He's always got your artwork's like daily, isn't it?
Yeah, when I feel like it.
Yeah, you know.
Hourly.
So, what's up, everybody out there watching us live? Again, apologies for the delay. Thank you for hanging in there. Tonight we'll be talking about the Snyder Cut with our semi-full panel, Mr. Joe Crab, T-Man 978, and myself. Before we get started, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you kielbasa slam that like button and ring that notification bell so you can see when we come out with bonus content like our B-sides. And also be sure to tune in this Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We have our special guest, Vault Matrix. We'll be talking to him about life, his YouTube career, being one of the OG Transformers reviewers. And be sure to pop in that live chat because if you got any questions for him, he'll be there to answer them. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. Let's talk about the Snyder Cut. So, Joe, Kev, I know you guys are pretty passionate about this. Start off with Kev. Kev, what do you think about this whole situation? Or are you excited about it?
As a comic book fan and a thing of, like, yeah, I'm excited, but at the same time, it's like one of those things, like, y'all did it already. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a cheat code. Like, you giving all the answers. Like, for instance, the movie came out. You know everything that happened in it. People would have made millions of posts about it, saying what they don't like, what they do like. And then you're like, all right, we're going to just fix everything y'all said y'all don't like. We're going to take it out. Everything y'all like, we're going to keep it in there. And we're going to add some shit, basically. So, as a fan of, like, everything geekdom, I like it because the more the merrier. The more content we get, the better. I'll never be upset about getting more DC or more Marvel. And I think the thing is, most people think, oh, he must be a Marvel fan. No, I like everything that does with, comic books, toys, anything of that nature. So it's just one of them things. Like, I think a redo is fine if it's a whole nother movie, but it's basically the same movie with extra stuff, and they shoot more stuff. That's the consensus that I'm getting from it.
Yeah, because they're spending like $20 million on this.
Between $20 and $30 million is what I read. And I mean, you got to realize most movies. I know for a blockbuster movie like this is like $20 or $30 million, not nothing. But just for add-ons, basically, that's a lot of money. I mean, some movies don't even. That's not even their full. I mean, that's a full budget of some movies, without special effects and stuff like that. But that's nuts to me. And more than likely, that 20 or 30 probably just getting most of the cash back, not even the other parts of it.
Well, I know it's going to get a lot of people on HBOmax, and that's another point of contention is that it's an HBOmax exclusive.
Right.
I'm sure they'll do like a Blu-ray release.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting premise. It's really an interesting premise that they're going and doing this with a movie. I kind of felt like Justice League was like they were playing catch up to Marvel for better or for worse, and they just kind of wanted to let's skip to where we want to be, but it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, so that's what I kind of get from it too. When I say it like that, people start to nitpick on me, right? So I say, like, look. Me personally, I know a lot of people didn't. I love Man of Steel. Like, I love the movie Man of Steel for the simple fact the last half of the movie was him unloading like you always wanted to see him. Like, he literally was flying at Mach speeds,
going through buildings,
destroying big, world-eating machinery, fighting bad guys. That was, his power. And then the best part is, I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but the end. You see something that Superman really didn't want to do. Like, he had to make a choice. And he made it for the greater good. So a lot of people was like, oh, that movie was trash. I'm like, that movie was amazing, right? BVS was just okay to me because, like, I know it was a very small part, but that Martha part killed me. I'm like, y'all literally just stopped fighting because
Yeah.
same name. Like that it? Was that the only thing that made you stop fighting? Because some people was mad because at first Batman was getting owned by Superman. It's Superman. I know he's a genius, but if Superman really wants to cut it on, it's nothing Batman can do without getting a whole bunch of gadgets and getting the worst thing, which is
Yeah.
kryptonite. So like it made sense, and I like the fact that the director showed like, yo, it's nothing you can do if Superman really wanna just pounce you. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But people was mad because a lot of people are diehard Batman fans. Like everybody know, well, the Batman can beat everybody in DC. He knows everybody's weakness. But if Superman get to you before the weakness actually come, it ain't nothing you can do.
I
So BVS was cool. Superman I love. Wonder Woman was well directed, well shot, well played. But Justice League to me, man, it was all over the place.
yeah. Like they needed more time with the individual characters for what it was to matter. Like it's, you had Civil War in the Marvel scape, and you came to know Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, and then when they fought, it meant a lot more.
Right.
Yeah.
But like in a sense of the Batman Justice League thing, like, and when you compare it, people be like, well, you can't compare it. Okay, well, you can compare it. But you did like two movies, then was like, wow, here go the whole team without even knowing any backstory about nobody else. So for instance, if Cyborg and Flash had a movie together, that could have worked,
Oh yeah,
right? Or, like if they did like, two people in the movie team up at some point, it was like Flash came out of nowhere. They literally
yeah,
just was like Batman showed up one day in his basement and was like, "Hey, you Flash, right? You want to be a part of a team?" Like no backstory. And then one of the most amazing stories that could have been was a Cyborg story. They like literally was like, "Wow." I mean, they mentioned it a
yeah.
little bit in Wonder Woman, but that was after the fact, though.
They
Like,
shoehorned a lot of it in.
and it was like, bro, it could have been so good the way y'all did it. And I guess people always think, because to me, Infinity War was like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. Endgame was amazing too, right? But when I compare the movies, I'm like, there's no comparison. It's no comparison. Just like I say, DC, the animated universe is amazing. Like Marvel can't touch the animated universe of DC. If they take the same energy they do with the animated universe or
Yeah,
directions, it would be amazing.
yeah.
So it's like they hire these people with names and like, oh, he gonna make a good movie because it's him. No, sometimes it don't work like that. Every director is not good for every movie. You have to pick and choose. Like for instance, the dudes that did the Avengers are perfect for that movie. Now
Yeah,
they
the
can make
Russo brothers.
another, yeah, they can make another movie and it can be a shitty movie. But for that universe, all them characters, they did well. They did amazing because they knew how to direct all those people. Just like, for instance, you think of basketball, right? You say greatest player in the world ever. Everybody
Everybody's gonna
usually
say
think
Michael
of
Jordan.
Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah,
Hockey, you're gonna say Wayne Gretzky, right? Um, tennis, tennis, Serena, Arthur Ashe. It's a couple. Certain sports got a couple of people, right? You say golf, Tiger Woods, right? Or what's the Ice T dude name? They say it's all after him, Armor Palmer or something like
yeah,
that. Trust me, he didn't make half and half. Half and half been around thousands of years. Anyway, but it's certain stuff you think about and you automatically think of a person, right? Hear this. You think of Tony Stark. Who do you think about? Like you don't even say Robert Downey no more. You say, oh, they go Iron Man.
yeah,
Like he is Tony Stark, right? So they get these people to play these perfect parts of these universes. But when you say Batman, in the last 20 years, it's been 500 Batmans. You get what I'm
yeah.
saying? And what's his name? Campbell, the guy that plays Superman. Um,
Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Campbell. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Like he's a great Superman. But you gotta remember, 2 years before that Man of Steel came out, it was some other dude.
yeah.
So
Christopher
like,
Reeve.
and God
Well,
bless,
B.J.
God rest his
Ralph
not
played him,
no,
and
it
then
was the one
yeah,
before him. Yeah,
yeah,
but God rest, Christopher Reeve. So I like the Christopher Reeve movies because I was a kid, and it takes me back to a good time. But like the new dude, that one before Man of Steel was trash, like trash. because then I was like, well, his son supposed to be this, and like it was so confusing.
Kevin Spacey is also a pretty terrible Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey is a pretty terrible person.
I think I'd rather have Kevin Spacey though than Jesse
Oh,
Eisenberg.
yeah,
But Kevin Spacey now, I mean, Kevin Spacey, you view him as a villain, so it adds another layer to it.
Yeah.
yeah.
So Joe, what are your feelings on all this? Because I know you like the individual movies. I know you're a big Wonder Woman fan.
hmm I'm excited for it. I did not really like Justice League like most people. I thought it was, like Kev said, it was a mess. And I'm glad that we're going to get a chance to see Zack Snyder's version of it because, and this is why I say like I don't think it sets a dangerous precedent. I don't think it's like cheating. There's a reason behind this is why this is happening, and HBO Max is the main catalyst of why we're getting this. Because if it was not for HBO Max, we would not be getting the Snyder Cut. There is no way that WB was going to say, we're going to put all this money into basically remaking this movie and put it in the theaters when the first one already pretty much lost money. Like, it did not make money. It brought in a lot of money, but it didn't earn much profit. So they're not going to put all this money into a second chance when it's not going to, you know what I mean? It's like they're not going to all of a sudden have a $1 billion blockbuster on their hands. But having HBO Max, a streaming service, come in where with Netflix, Disney Plus, everybody's coming out with their own streaming service, with their own Amazon Prime, with their own original programming, and content is it's everything. With the streaming war that's going on right now, you have to have content. So what better way to finally make this happen to say, okay, we'll give you your 20 to 30 million. It's not really like, this is not really a budget for a movie for us. This is more of like advertising, startup costs for HBO Max. This is basically going to launch. It's not going to launch HBO Max because HBO Max is going to start before this comes out, obviously, but it's going to be the big key, the keystone content to HBO Max. And without it, we would never have a chance to see this. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait, to see more details come out. I think there's a really good chance that we're not going to get a 4-hour, a straight 4-hour cut. I think we're going to get it released in chunks. It could be 3 episodes, 6 episodes. I think they could chop it up to
What
make
about
it a
an Infinity
series.
War Endgame sort of deal?
They could do a 2-parter. Yeah. You all right?
For me?
Yeah, it's like you fell down.
No. I was my thing disconnected. I'm good.
All right. No, yeah, they could do a 2-parter. I have a feeling that if they do a 2-parter, it'll be like, I don't know what month they say it's going to come out, but in April we'll get part 1, and in May or June we'll get part 2 to keep subscribers on the hook for at least 2 or 3 month subscription.
Like the same they did with Mandalorian, made it like every week an episode come out basically.
That's a smart thing to
They
do.
could do that. Yeah. If I don't know if they have enough to do like a, how many episodes they could do if they wanted to make it like episodes. I don't know if it would work that way, but another layer to this is, which is why I'm excited for it, and why I don't think it's cheating, is there's a certain story behind why it all went down the way it did. And when Zack Snyder, he shot his whole movie basically, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He had finished filming. They had just started post-production. And his daughter had committed suicide and
unfortunately.
Yeah, and him, so he had to bail out on the project, and I don't think it was I don't even think he asked for them to wait to come back. I don't think it was anything. I think he just left the project, obviously for good reasons.
Yeah. Right.
And they said, okay, well, we have to bring in Joss to finish it up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they also said, hey, we don't want you to just take his footage and finish it. This is what here's his plan. Make his movie. They brought all the actors back in. They spent more money. They refilmed a bunch of it. And you can actually see if you go back and watch the early trailers that came out. The early trailers have a totally different visual tone and feel than what actually came out at the end and the last trailers that we got.
Yeah, you're right.
Everything was different. So obviously when it first came out, and everybody was like, "Man, this is a mess. It looks like it's all pieced together," and you got the Henry Cavill weird, mustache going on. Everyone immediately was like, "Well, we want to see the Snyder cut because we know that's not the Snyder cut." And he eventually did come out and say that what we saw in the theater was roughly a quarter of what he shot for Justice League. So if he has a Snyder, now I don't think that all this time there was a Snyder cut that he had possession of that's done, ready to go, all the visual effects, just release it. I don't think that's ever the case. I think he just has all the footage. He's got cans of footage, and he's calling it the Snyder cut. But right now, what's today's date? The 25th, Memorial Day, May 25th. There is no Snyder cut right now. That's what I think. There's really weird on YouTube right now. Everybody's saying, "Oh, I knew there was a Snyder cut. Everybody was wrong." No, there still is no Snyder cut. It's just footage.
Concept art.
Exactly. It's the Snyder remaster is what it is.
Exactly. They are now saying, "Here's some money. Go ahead and make your Snyder cut."
Yeah.
And now we're going to see what that's going to turn out to be.
Right.
So
I don't think they're going to do reshoots, though. I know, Kev, you said there may be reshoots.
Well, you got to realize the Martian Manhunter scenes wasn't shot.
There's going to be a lot of scenes. There's going to be a lot of stuff that he probably wanted in there that he's not going to be able to do because unless they're just going to CG everything. But
unless they do it in parts and then they throw more money at it.
I think doing it in parts is smart because you can spread that cost out.
Yeah.
Like if you're just doing like, hey, $30 million for one film, that's one thing. But if you say, hey, what if we give you 15 mil for each episode?
4 episodes.
Yeah.
Because it's cheaper than doing a series. And that's the thing is like HBO throws a lot of money at their series. So if they do it in parts and then they're like, okay, well we have enough existing footage versus doing a new series because Watchmen was pretty expensive.
So the funny thing is, I wanted to ask you about Watchmen. Watchmen is still in the same the DC universe, right?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of, right?
More or less,
but it's like independent too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really not connected.
No.
In this, but it is the DC. It is a DC property.
Right.
The movie universe is different.
Right.
Because originally,
I haven't seen the Watchmen yet, but everybody I talked to said the show was actually really good. So. And then when I tell people like, yo, check this out, I'm not sitting for any 4-hour movie. That's just me. That's me. I don't care what it is. I'm not sitting down for 4 hours to watch anything. My attention span ain't that long. What you about to say, Tay?
I'm thinking, if it was already filmed the way can y'all hear fireworks?
Not yet.
Yeah.
They are loud behind me. But
you sure
if
it's not
he already
gunfire?
shot the movie the way he wanted to shoot it and whatnot, it's no guarantee that it's going to be a 4-hour movie. He could just put it out the way he intentionally he intended. So it could just be like a 2.5 hour or 3-hour movie.
Yeah, but just like what Joe was saying, like everybody like actually thought the movie was actually made and they just used somebody else's footage.
Yeah.
Like he said it, if you listen to what he was saying on the watch through of Man of Steel, he was showing you concept art, like where he got the inspiration from, how he liked, the like the big outfits and stuff like that. Like he was showing his art, and he basically was like, yeah, and this is what I want to do, and this my concept for it and everything like that. So most people thought all the footage was already together; it just needed to be tweaked. Even the dude Kevin Smith basically was like, look, I seen it. I seen what y'all saying is the Snyder cut. It's parts in there he flipping through a book and recording it, and like, oh yeah, the guy, Superman then flies in. Like it's literally drawings of it. It's not actual footage. And if it was some footage, it was like rough CG, just like stick figure man and the basic skeleton of the actual actors or what the characters was supposed to do. Not like now. Then it might cut to a scene when Batman talking and it's actually him in a suit. or him in the seat with the rest of it CGI. So it wasn't like something he can just drop. Because if it was something that he could drop now, he would just drop as soon as HBO dropped.
Yeah.
And
I
everybody would be
don't
like,
believe. I
"Oh, I
don't believe
told
that.
you." But he has to have time to shoot it all. He has to have time to produce it all, and to get everybody back to add little lines that was taken out and stuff like that. Because let's see how much. I mean, think about how much footage is probably in a storage locker destroyed somewhere. Or somebody stole a reel or something like that. Like, so I don't know. Like Joe said, I'm happy to see it because more is always good. But at the same time, I wasn't. I think I was getting so upset because like as soon as you say I'm good without the Snyder cut, people were like, "Oh, you hate DC," and that's not the case. It's just one of them things. Like, yo, I seen it already. I didn't like that version. If you can give me something else, I'll watch it. But I don't need it. Like, I don't need it.
Yeah. I see some opportunists, some like going back to like when they brought Whedon on. I was like, I was looking at it as like DC was playing catch up. I always like to say with BVS and Justice League, that was like those were their Me Too movies. They wanted to get to where Marvel was without having the individual build up, and that was always, to me, that was always a misstep. Because prior to all this, DC had great movies, and they had, well, maybe not Green Lantern, but they always.
And that's the crazy part. That's my favorite, like my favorite franchise of all time. It's like the Blackest Night series and all that.
Yeah. And they just needed to build up these characters, and I felt when they brought in Joss Whedon, that was their thing. Oh, okay, great. We can get all the Marvel people on board by bringing in Joss Whedon, who did Avengers and Age of Ultron, and they're going to want to see what he does with DC. Because that was the thing, was the Zack Snyder movies, for better or worse, they were a different flavor than what you were getting with Marvel. And I feel like a lot of the producers were saying, no, we gotta play catch up. And it was really, to me, it was evident in BVS.
Yeah. That's one thing about all of Zack Snyder's films, pretty much, is that they are very decisive. You either like them,
love them,
or you don't. And if you go all the way back to Watchmen, the movie,
yeah,
that same way. And speaking of Watchmen, he made 2 additional cuts. There are 3 versions total of Watchmen. Man of Steel was one of the most divisive. I mean, you think like Star Wars is pretty like the new Star Wars movies are pretty divisive. Man of Steel, I remember like when that came out, there was instantly 2 camps, and you had all the people like, "Oh, Superman, don't do that," and he was destroyed a whole city and everything. Like, come on, like. And I get it, you can't make everyone like what you like, but I personally love Man of Steel. It's one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. That's Man of Steel, and Spider-Man 2 are probably like my 2 top. Spider-Man 2 was freaking dope. I love Spider-Man 2.
What's Spider-Man 2? Which one?
The first Spider-Man 2.
Not amazing.
Not Amazing Spider-Man 2. The first Spider-Man 2. But anyway, like with Tobey Maguire. You don't like that one? I love that movie.
I love that movie. The Sam Raimi movie out of all of the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Because when I watch movies like that, I want there to be like I want it to stir up some, like, I want it to be inspired, like I want to, like, and Superman is like, when I was a kid, I've always looked up to Superman. Christopher Reeve movies, loved them when I was a kid.
Right.
And speaking of all these director's cuts, Superman 2. This has happened all before. Yeah. This reminds me a lot of the Donner cut. It's actually a very similar situation. It is a DC thing, I guess, because this is the same thing where they got rid of Donner. Now that was a little bit different scenario, but they basically got rid of Donner and had somebody else come in. I can't remember his name, and basically finish the movie. And if you go back and watch the Donner cut, it's probably 80. It's probably 80 to 90% the same footage, but there's a lot of extra stuff to put in, and it flows a little bit differently. And I don't know if any of you have actually seen it, but one of the big things about, they say like Superman does kill because he killed Zod at the end of Superman 2. Well, in the Donner cut, he didn't kill Zod. You see him at the end where they walked him out of the Fortress of Solitude in handcuffs, and there's literally like police there to arrest. It was so stupid because it's like, at the Fortress of Solitude, and
Like,
they're
how did
walking
they
him
get
out.
there?
Yeah, and it's like they're walking him out in handcuffs, basically. Like, but no, like, yeah, for some reason, I guess DC movies do have a lot of different cuts. There's an Ultimate Edition of BVS, which I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but I prefer the Ultimate Edition. It is a lot longer. It's not really a completely different movie, but it has a lot of stuff that was that they had taken out, and when you put that back in, you get a better sense of why Batman was so murdery all of a sudden, why he hated Superman, and why they were being pit against each other. Because Lex Luthor was literally putting all those pieces,
in place.
starting with the very first part of the film where Superman had to save Lois Lane and at the from that terrorist group. Lex Luthor was behind every single thing in that movie, and it actually makes me like his Lex Luthor better having seen the extended version, because even though it was not played that well,
Right.
you got a more like what's the mastermind behind the whole thing. You got a better sense of that. Whereas the one we saw in theaters was just kind of like, yeah, this not working. It's just like, why, why are they fighting? Why did they stop fighting? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we knew Doomsday was coming because they showed that in the
Hold up real
trailer.
quick, fellas.
What's your question, T?
And the Donner cut.
T, real quick. Hey, I'm getting a 911 page from work. I gotta roll.
Okay.
Right.
Let me make sure y'all talk about the Steppenwolf part. The Steppenwolf part, because now they supposed to put the monstrous Steppenwolf back in there or something. But they thinking about putting the one they didn't use, like the big hulking Steppenwolf from like created from the mother box or something like that. I'm gonna try to watch some from work, but I'm getting a 911 page, so I definitely gotta go.
All right,
save the day.
Stay safe and good luck out there, man.
Yep, be careful.
In a Donner cut of Superman, did he take his S off and throw?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, the cellophane
I
thing.
was like, what
Yeah.
the hell is this? And it didn't really do nothing.
I guess my question now is, like, did you guys see the news about Henry Cavill is actually in talks to be back as Superman?
I heard that.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
No.
So the rumor has it is that they were going to do a Supergirl movie, and they've tossed that out. And I loved Shazam. Like, Shazam was a big surprise, and I got really because they were always, even before Shazam came out, they were in talks. It was confirmed that Dwayne Johnson was going to be Black Adam. And so now there's talks that not only has Henry Cavill reconsidered, but Dwayne Johnson really wants him back to have the Black Adam Superman thing going on, which I'd love to see. And I love the direction of Shazam, and I'd like to see the DC universe just not be a copy paste of Marvel.
Yeah.
So I really, because I like Henry Cavill as Superman, to be honest with you. And I like the fact that, much like Vin Diesel, the guy appreciates the source material for things that he's in. He's not a closeted geek, but for all intents and purposes, yeah, he's a closeted geek. He gets this stuff. So it's cool to have somebody like that in the role who understands comics and the character.
Did you see that he was making model kits?
Yes, yeah, yeah. And I thought that was cool as shit. Like, like I remember, like, when I read about Vin Diesel playing D&D, and then of course there's his old, when he was doing the Street Sharks promo. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Yeah, it's cool as shit. So I wonder if this is, like, my big question with all this is, are they trying to do this not to reboot the DC universe, but to salvage what's there? They have stuff that is its own thing. And rather than rebooting it, because they did that with Batman all the time, you have the Tim Burton Batman, then they kind of loosely tied it into the Schumacher Batman, then you have Nolan Batman, and you have Snyder Batman, and now they're getting ready to do a new Batman, and then you have the new Joker. Why not just take this DCEU and tidy it up? And I see this as an opportunity to do that. Now, back up a bit in the chat, Antoine said, he could see them doing this with more movies. But on the flip side of this, I kind of see this as a way to legitimize what's already been done. Toss a little bit more money at it, but make it cohesive.
That's going to be really hard to do to make everything fit back together. Like if you, bringing back Henry Cavill is a start, but
Yeah.
since they're already committed to this new Batman trilogy, or at least one movie,
Yeah.
You can't. I don't think Ben Affleck's going to come back.
Maybe.
But you know, if you could
Cavill
get Ben
does, he could.
if Ben Affleck did come back, then you could keep this new Batman thing off to its own, just like they did with Joker. Keep it off to its own universe, and bring and give Ben Affleck as actual, give him a solo Batman movie, because that's one thing a lot of people really wanted to see. I'm one of them. But I didn't think it was necessary because we know Batman, we know the whole history of Batman. So I didn't think it was necessary for BVS. But all those other characters, yeah, I agree. They needed Victor Stone, Cyborg, needed a movie like, and you could have combined that with the Flash.
Yeah.
The Flash would have benefited greatly from his own movie before he showed up in Justice League. I don't think you can go back. I don't know. Because if you do all that, then that means the goal is like, are we going to work towards a Justice League 2? And I don't see. I think that ship's sailed. But yeah, it'd be nice to have some of the guys come back and maybe do a couple movies. And I think that's one of the reasons why the whole thing felt rushed to begin with. Is I think they knew they only had Ben Affleck for a little brief window.
Well, but he was supposed to do his own solo movie too.
There was talk about. Well, he was originally going to direct it and everything.
And direct it, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that would have happened.
Yeah.
I think he got bummed out by all the negative reactions to everything. But it was.
I think so.
If they would have done that first, like you said, if you would have had you had Man of Steel, if you would have had the solo Ben Affleck Batman movie, and probably come out with Wonder Woman first.
Yeah.
Then you could have done BVS.
Though, let me ask you something about that, because they came out with Wonder Woman after the fact, and I think when Wonder Woman came out, that did more to legitimize her character. Now we're seeing Marvel do that with Black Widow, even though we've had a lot to, they did do a good job in the Marvel universe, in the MCU, getting, establishing her character. She should have had her solo movie first. But do you think that that's something they could do, is go back and take a page out of the MCU's book and give these characters their own movies? And then would that also further legitimize that? Like, go back, fix Justice League a bit, but then give Cyborg his own movie, give Flash his own movie. Maybe that would get...
If it was me, if you were handing the keys to me and say, do what you want, I would say, okay, let's make this Wonder Woman 2. Let's get that out there. Let's give Ezra Miller, the Flash, his own movie. And I would use his movie as a flashpoint to reboot the whole DCU. You can keep some actors, you can get rid of some actors, because time travel's weird. Okay, so Gal Gadot could still be Wonder Woman. Henry Cavill could still be Superman. You could bring in a new Superman. Ben Affleck, he could be Batman, or you could bring in a younger Batman. I mean, there's so many things you could do, and that would be a good way to have it to where it's still connected to.
No, I forgot about
else,
the Batman that's coming out. Is that going to be in this universe?
No, that's supposed to take place in the 90s, and it may possibly be tied to Joker, but that's not confirmed yet either. It could also be its own thing.
I think it's going to be its own. I think it would be smart for them to make it their own thing.
Yeah.
I need to refresh my screen because y'all are frozen for me.
All right.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was good. I'm excited for Wonder Woman 84. I mean, I know that's your favorite trailer of all time. Corey Tillman says Zack Snyder wanted BVS to be Man of Steel 2, but the WB made him do Batman vs Superman instead. I don't think Zack wanted to rush I've heard that too. I've heard that they wanted to have Man of Steel 2 and hints of Batman, and then give Batman his own film, and then go into Batman, and that would have been better.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, I think that the execs at Warner Brothers were trying to rush them to play catch up with Marvel, and it was a bad gamble. They should have always been their own thing. And that's the thing is, prior to Marvel, I mean, really while Marvel did kick off, the popularization of comic book movies, Batman was always popular on his own. Superman was always popular on his own, and they should never have tried to compete.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think that I think that's one of the reasons why Henry Cavill wants to come back, is because I don't think he doesn't feel like they really gave the Superman character all the due diligence they should have. Like,
all the
really...
justice. So to speak.
Yeah, exactly. He did not get his justice. They really, Batman and Superman should have been the cornerstones. They should have had their own movie and or two under their belt before they did everything they did.
Right.
And I think he wants to come back and say, okay, you know what, I want to do a Man of Steel 2. And if I don't think I'm going to get a Man of Steel 3, then we're going to make Man of Steel 2 put in a kind of an ending.
Yeah.
Not really. It doesn't mean he has to be really an end of the story, but to truly do the character justice and fill out what, whether it was all Zack Snyder or what Henry Cavill has in mind for the character.
Is Amy Adams even still attached to be Lois? I haven't heard anything about that.
I'm not sure.
She ain't the star, so.
Yeah, well, no, she's not. But Lois Lane's still
One thing I think they could have did to fix Superman, like everybody complains about his effects and whatnot, instead of taking his mustache off, they could have just got him to add a beard on. It made it like he grew a beard while he was dead.
They could have not shot that whole freaking scene to begin with, because it didn't add anything to the story at all. I have no clue why they put that in there.
Well, the whole thing though is like Paramount had him. Paramount kind of was trying to fuck with the movie because for Man from U.N.C.L.E., he was contractually obligated to have that mustache. I mean, there was
Impossible.
Or Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Which I still need to watch that. And
it was good. And you know what? Mission Impossible, that movie with him in it was better than Justice League. So they got the better end of that deal.
Is Shazam on a service yet?
I'm not sure.
Because I've been waiting for that, and it's like
you haven't seen it?
Yeah, I've watched it at home.
Man,
you can get it on Amazon. I don't know if it's like on Netflix or something, but I think you can rent it.
No, I don't want to rent it.
Well, let's run down what the rumors are for what's supposed to be in the cut, what it's supposed to add. So Polygon reported it the other day. So first and foremost, we're supposed to get Darkseid and the Return of Nightmare. So Joe, you were talking about this a little bit more. We're supposed to give a little bit more reason into why Batman was the way he was. Polygon states right here that Batman vs Superman's nightmare sequence hit in a dark future in which the alien tyrant Darkseid took control of Superman and destroyed the planet. And Snyder wanted to do more with this. The storyboard also revealed that Darkseid would have made an appearance here using the mother boxes to terraform Earth. I don't see why they can't CG that in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, planting more seeds, doing these character build-ups. I think one of the interesting things about where we are with the current state of things, where people are consuming things that was meant for a theatrical release at home, I don't know. So it's interesting though. HBOmax is going to be an interesting service. I doubt it's going to be like the next Disney Plus, but people love their HBO, and I never we have cable, but we never added HBO to our cable plan. When Game of Thrones was out or anything we wanted to watch on HBO, I would subscribe.
You don't watch Power?
No, I didn't.
I haven't watched that either yet.
But if they want to add stuff to this, and it's going to be interesting to see how, when we return to normal, how we're going to go back to the theater. I think if they want to, it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. I tell you, I'm not. There's certain movies that I don't want to watch at home. I mean, I have a nice TV. but I don't have the most sophisticated sound system, and I love going to the movie theater. I really
like
do.
going because it forces me to put my phone down.
That
when
too.
I'm at home, I can't not be on my phone.
Dude, that's an awesome point. I didn't even really think
That's
about
true.
that, because when you're at the theater, like, your only focus is what's going on at this. It's like you put blinders on. You're like, I paid for this experience, and I'm going to experience it. Whereas, even when I was watching Game of Thrones, I'd still check my phone here and there and be like, oh.
Yeah.
So the next part that they state is that Superman is supposed to make more sense in this. And yeah, of course, they get into the mustache being CG'd out. But they state that Lois would be doing more to help him come to his senses. Following that, we would have seen him fly for the first time, and we meet Alfred before joining the League. And there'd even be a look at his black suit in the Kryptonian ship. Star Labs.
All that actually, it also ties in with there being more Darkseid, because from what I heard, originally it wasn't the Justice League members that brought Superman back, because that was always kind of weird and cringy. It was like, dude, just he's dead, leave him alone. The reason why he came back from the dead originally, from what I heard, was that Darkseid was basically telling Steppenwolf to go recover the Kryptonian and bring him back to Apokolips, so that Darkseid could. And that's one of the, like, if you guys ever see like the comic books, the animated stuff, Darkseid, one of his things is he doesn't want to just destroy. He's a conqueror, so he gets much more satisfaction of breaking someone's will and making them do his bidding than killing them. If he has to kill Superman, he would kill Superman. But he would much rather have Superman be one of his generals or one of his lieutenants. And there was even, from what I heard, there was supposed to be some friction between that idea with Steppenwolf, because Steppenwolf is basically like, well, what about me? I can do this stuff. We don't need the Kryptonian. And that was supposed to be some.
He's the Starscream.
Basically, yeah.
Added some layers to the other side of it, rather than it being so one-sided.
Exactly.
One-dimensional. The next thing they state that it would add is Star Labs and the Atom, stating that Silas Stone, who's Cyborg's father, who works at Star Labs, would have factored more into this, including a fight scene involving Steppenwolf that led to Silas's death. Additionally, one of Silas's assistants was supposed to be Ryan Choi, aka the Second Atom, played by Zheng Kai. The scene filmed and later removed from the final cut, though Snyder had no problem releasing a photo of Zheng as the character. Ryan wouldn't have suited up, but it still would have been a nice cameo. And then this is the interesting part here, getting to know the new guys. Snyder's cut of Justice League allegedly spent more time in the lives of Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman. Barry Allen's love interest, Iris West, had a cameo, played by Kiersey Clemens, which was later cut. There was originally more Atlantean lore. The ending would have seen Aquaman talk with Mera and Vulko, which was supposed to set up his solo movie. Cyborg also had more to do in the film, not only reading up to the mother boxes, but testing his new powers and offering up a look at Victor Stone pre-heroic rebirth.
And that all we know for a fact exists, because we've seen images and actually parts of it were in some of the early trailers. There was a lot of Cyborg footage that we didn't see in the end cut of Justice League, and we've seen rough scenes and actually some scenes with effects with Flash and Iris West in them.
Yeah.
So that they don't really have to film anything for that. All that
right.
exists. All they got to do is polish it up and put it in.
Yeah. And
one
with
thing
all
I
that,
hope they can fix is the way the Flash was running. It was so weird to me. I didn't have many complaints about the movie when I was watching it. I didn't like the way Batman personality was, where he was a little bit more silly and less stern. He was like way more lighthearted than before, which seemed odd. I know he's supposed to have like a big turnaround since Superman dying was kind of his fault or whatever. But
That
I didn't like
stuff
that,
requires
and I
build
didn't
up,
like the
though.
way Flash was running. That
Yeah.
took me out of it. Like, ugh. I was cringing every time the Flash was running.
Another part of the rumors, time travel again. During the final battle in Russia, Cyborg had to stop the unity of the mother boxes from terraforming Earth. In Snyder's original version, he would have failed, forcing Flash to time travel and giving Victor a second chance. With some Speed Force help, Cyborg would have projected into the mother box and forced to face his old self and both his dead parents. Next up, a new Green Lantern, which would have been interesting to have seen an alien Green Lantern, which they also have a still here for.
Now, this scene here, when they flash back to this, it was all the Atlanteans, all the Amazons. They were fighting off this Darkseid army, and Steppenwolf comes out. That was supposed to be Darkseid. Zack Snyder told people that they literally took this because he did film that. They took that scene and they instead of CG and Darkseid in, they CG'd Steppenwolf in. So that would have played out completely different. It just would have looked cooler probably if they would have had Darkseid in it. That was supposed to be our first look at Darkseid.
And this one I think everybody knows about. Meet the Martian Manhunter. Across all three of the DCEU films, Henry Lennox has played the U.S. Secretary of Defense Calvin Swanwick. Swanwick, as it turns out, would have been more important in the Snyder Cut as the Martian Manhunter. Storyboards to the scene featuring Lois Lane and Martha Kent reveal the Martian took the form of Superman's mom before shapeshifting into Swanwick. Shooting with Lennox didn't occur before Snyder left the project, and the reveal had to be cut. But maybe CG can help the Manhunter from Mars be realized. And that was always a surprising one to me. So that would have been a fairly easy one to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do CG, but the more CG you throw in too, the bigger that budget needs to be.
Sure.
You know, and then we start talking, is 30 million enough?
Yeah, I think talking about splitting it up into parts, a miniseries, I think that would help them justify it.
Yeah.
Because at that point it becomes a televised event, especially if they, like Kev was saying earlier, do it in a Mandalorian style where you have to wait a couple of weeks or you have to wait a week between each part. And I think also, too, that makes it more digestible, to be honest. You start making it an event, and then people can't just get their subscription, watch it, and leave. You know, they got to be in it for at least a month.
Long, though. We still don't know.
We still don't know.
How much money to redesign Sonic the Hedgehog? Did
it? Yes and no, and it's a shame because the whole VFX team got let go after that redesign, which is a shame because that movie ended up making far more money than they forecasted.
Wow.
Next note, Lex Luthor was going to be in it more. Eisenberg's Lex Luthor shows up in Justice League post-credits stinger, but he was expected to show up earlier. Eisenberg confirmed several of his scenes were cut, and Batman is seen using the villain's journal to learn more about the parademons. Concept art for the film shows Lex in prison with his journal on his bed, implying Batman visited him to grab the journal early in the film. In addition, his summoning of Deathstroke to start the Legion of Doom in a post-credit scene was not in Snyder's version. It's unclear what would be in its place. And it's also interesting, we got the prison Lex Luthor figure as well when they were doing like Justice League toys back when Mattel had the license.
I always thought it was weird that he wasn't in it more because that part in Batman versus Superman where, you know, they showed him having that, like, he was talking to Steppenwolf basically, and he had the mother boxes kind of floating around him. That kind of implied to me that he was going to be like a almost like a advanced scout, sort of, that Darkseid was going to kind of try to use him to do some of his bidding. Maybe Lex Luthor would get out of jail and activate a mother box somehow, like, and then that would bring Steppenwolf and the armies to Earth? Because instead it just happens. In the movie we got, what did he first showed up? I think in Atlantis, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was in Atlantis, and it's all of a sudden it's like, hey, this mother box is making noise, and then boom, there's Steppenwolf, and it was no real story behind it. It just happens.
Yeah.
I think it would have made a lot more sense if Lex Luthor gets out of jail and goes and finds a mother box and fucks with it and starts everything off.
You think they'll update Steppenwolf's effects because he didn't look too good?
I think they will. Like Kevin was saying, the only thing that made it over was the shape of that helmet. In Batman vs Superman, the thing that we saw, which granted it was supposed to be like a weird 3D hologramish kind of thing, but it didn't look like that.
Yeah. So I really think this is where the movie's gonna, or where the cut's gonna or where we're gonna put most of the money is the third act. And Polygon here states that Whedon's reshoots are most evident during the battle in Russia. Snyder said that before things in the final film, like the Russian family that Flash saves from the root-like structures that grow out of the ground, weren't part of the original version of the film. And one of the original trailers shows that battle would have taken place at night rather than midday. And we also would have been able to see Darkseid's arrival. It states that it's well known that Snyder wanted the Justice League to meet Darkseid during the film's original climax. Concept art shows that we would have that he would have made multiple appearances throughout the film, including as his younger self and fighting Ares during the invasion of Earth. The heroes would have met him via the boom tube after killing Steppenwolf, and Batman had a line referencing his arrival. Darkseid was meant to be voiced by Ray Porter and appear alongside his chief torturer Desaad, played by Peter Guinness, to avoid a cliffhanger. The ending was reshot, and since they added new effects and dialogue, maybe we'll see the new evil god after all. And then what's going to make the cut? Snyder has insisted that his version of Justice League will feel like an entirely different movie from Joss Whedon's version. It'll have a new visual effects sequences, additional character development, some added dialogue. Per Snyder's words, the film is assembled from around 90% complete footage and around 214 minutes long. Darkseid is for sure showing up, but it's unclear if some scenes will be reworked to accommodate the changing landscape of the ECU. For example, will Aquaman meeting Vera and Vulko at the end get cut since his film is already come and gone? What gets added to further setup for the upcoming Flash movie? And basically they say that it'll be premiering sometime in 2021, which we all know. It's interesting. If they make changes here, do you guys think that they might be willing to make changes to Aquaman? I mean, it was announced it was actually announced yesterday that David Ayer is planning a Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. Could we see similar things for other movies in the DCEU? What do you guys think?
I mean, anything's possible. I don't think that Aquaman needs anything done to it. I liked Aquaman. I thought it was well received and made money. Same with Shazam, Wonder Woman. I don't think any of those need changes. But I would venture to guess that if they're gonna make it an episode type structure, that nothing's getting cut. If he has however many minutes of footage he has in the can, he's gonna use every single minute of it if they're making it into episodes. If they're making it into one film, then yeah, probably stuff like that will end up getting cut. I don't even know how much of flashback story we'll get, because since what's his face got in trouble for like choke
Ezra Miller, yeah, and
like,
Amber
he
Heard
might not be getting.
Yeah, Amber Heard got let go from Aquaman too. So, but then again, if you want to talk Marvel, I mean, do you think of Terrence Howard as Rhodey, or do you think of?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point. Whenever they make casting changes, it's always like, oh no, it's not gonna, it's like,
yeah.
And then sometimes they work out.
Yeah, I mean they're already doing it in the CW Arrowverse. I mean Ruby Rose has stepped down as Batwoman. They're looking to recast her. So I mean it's kind of one of those things where it is what it is. I think when it comes to the superhero movies, recastings are kind of par for the course anymore. I mean, not just with Batman, but you had Katie Holmes in Batman Begins, and then she was replaced with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
They
replaced the lady on Charmed.
Yeah, they did. How did they even phone that in?
Actually, they made it like she died or something, and they brought a whole new character. So she wasn't replaced. Her character wasn't replaced.
Yeah. No, it's funny though. I think when you see Don Cheadle as War Machine the first time, when going into Iron Man 2, it's just such a stark difference between Terrence Howard.
I love how they wrote it into the movie though, because he's like, "Yeah, it's me," get over it or something like that. Yeah, like
there's a sense of self-awareness.
Yeah.
When I watched the second movie, I didn't even think about it, to be honest, that he was replaced. I just looked at him as the character he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I knew, and it's just so funny that Terrence Howard's last line in the movie in the first Iron Man was like, "Next time." It's like that never happens. It was like he damned himself.
Yep.
Next time, man.
And then I did I ruin it for you? Like every time he says Tony in the movie, he's like Tony. Tony.
My problem might be the Iron Man movies weren't my favorite. I didn't buy any of them when they were released, and I barely watched. I only watched I did watch the first one again, and I watched the second one probably the most. But the third one, I haven't gone back. I don't remember anything.
The second one's good up until the third act. Like the way that everything gets resolved, like they barely brush on Tony's alcoholism, and it's like, hey, remember when we did that thing at the party? Oh yeah.
That and Whiplash became sort of like the same villain as the first movie. It's just an evil Iron Man again. Then they killed him right away. Yeah.
First one was good. I really enjoyed the first one.
Funny enough, the first one, the whole thing was, I think the original script for the movie, and keep me honest here, they didn't like the Ironmonger wasn't supposed to die. Like
I've never heard that. I've heard lots of rumors about it. I heard Tom Cruise was supposed to be Tony Stark.
Yeah, well, that was the thing was Robert Downey Jr. almost didn't get the role because he was like a lot of people forget he was uninsurable at the time. Like off
he had issues.
Yeah, so he had 2 hits back to back. He had Tropic Thunder and Iron Man the same year, and then he went from being like basically devalued to one of the most valuable men in Hollywood. It's kind of crazy how that worked out for him, and there's a lot to be said about giving a man a second chance. But back to Justice League and kind of back to the bigger question, like my opinion has always been that the DCEU's problem was that it was playing catch up with Marvel. I think the post Endgame, I think unfortunately interest in Marvel, it's kind of like Wayne. It's like kind of like they got to their literal end game, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to make something else out of the DCEU and give us some interesting movies. I really like Shazam. I'm interested in Wonder Woman 84, and I think if they go back and try and salvage these movies, they can build their own universe and say, okay, well, Marvel is doing their Phase 4 and they're bringing in a bunch of no-name characters. Unfortunately, that's what it is. I mean, really, who's excited for the Immortals? I mean, Captain America and Iron Man are gone from Marvel. So this is a golden opportunity to salvage the DCEU and say, okay, well, we still have Batman, we have Superman, we can do Green Lantern, Wonder Woman. And I think it's a good time for them to try and salvage this to get those characters on the screen again.
Yeah. I think if they can get they can get these actors locked up, and mainly, I mean, you could do it without Ben Affleck, but if they can get Ben Affleck back for 2 or 3 movies, and they could go back and fix if they do the Snyder cut, and then maybe, like you said, do the Flash Cyborg kind of,
Yeah.
and Flash Cyborg could be almost like a buddy cop kind of thing. Not really like a buddy cop movie, but you know what I mean. Like it could be like a good little duo. They don't each need to have their own, and that could be a funny, light paced movie.
The relationship could be like Cyborg and Beast Boy on Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect example. And they already have plans for a Green Lantern Corps. So if they did that and they got these actors locked up, then I could see them coming back around and say, okay, let's do Justice League 2. Let's bring out Darkseid, full blown, have the Apocalypse, war. Maybe give Cavill a Man of Steel 2 after that.
Yeah.
I that would be. It's probably not going to happen, but that would be pretty great. I think you could make it work. It wouldn't be as clean, and you know what though, when we say as clean and pretty and like the MCU did everything perfect, there's a lot of missteps along the way.
Like he said, I really don't think that the second and third Iron Man movies are all that great. I mean,
Thor 2 kind of sucked.
Thor 2 is terrible.
Yeah. There's
Thor 1 was kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah. Thor 1 was, I guess the advantage that it had was it was Thor. It was the first time you're.
The only thing that saved
Thor.
that movie was Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean, like honestly, him being kind of like a fish out of water. The whole scene, like where he like drinks the beer and like
Yeah. The funny stuff they did, I think. Well, they did still have humor in the second movie.
Yeah, but it was mostly like Kat Dennings going around screaming "Mew Mew." No, that was cringy. And then, I mean, I don't remember. I just remember Thor 2 feeling like Star Wars with elves and like the weird shit with the frost giants and
yeah, that movie sucked. Yeah, so it basically the Marvel thing was not. Everyone acts like just because there was those great movies like Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, like everything was perfect. No, it wasn't. Everything was not perfect. Yeah. And I think if you can salvage this DC thing and make it connect together, and then pick up where you left off, keep going with. I would keep going with the way that they're doing. Like they
won't need to compete if you have like the these no-name Marvel characters, but then DC says, oh, we got all of our heavy hitters.
Yeah,
and that's what you can come and see.
And I'm not saying it's going to turn into a 20-some movie behemoth or that they'll have billion-dollar box offices, but I think you could make it work in its own way.
I've been saying this, along the way. I know Kev said the DC animated movies are untouchable. I think what's successful there is they're able to tell one-off stories without the build-up, so to speak.
DC animated is, if you were to take and put Bruce Timm in charge of the DC, the actual live-action movies, the DCEU, that is the single best move you could make. Because the work that he did with the animated series, Justice League Unlimited, and the individual movies that he's done, it's some of the best DC storytelling. I still think that the Justice League Unlimited series is probably one of the single best animated. Like it's up there with my top 3: Avatar: Last Airbender, Justice League Unlimited, and that it kind of includes Batman, the Batman series, and the Superman series. But yeah, it's up there.
Spacey Llama says, I heard WB/AT&T wants Zach to add things to possibly set up Man of Steel 2 and Justice League 2 if this does well. Don't know if it's true or not. But that kind of goes to us saying like they could use this as a vehicle to salvage that universe and make people interested again. I think what DC should, like what I was getting at with the animated universe is Joker was wildly successful. They're doing the solo Batman movie. Why not have multiple things going on at the same time? Take time with an EU. Take time with the DCEU, but still be able to do movies like Joker, the Batman, things that are unrelated. I think audiences are smart enough to know this doesn't take place in that universe.
Yep.
So they can have their cake and eat it too. They can do what I don't think Marvel is willing to do. I mean, Marvel, before we went live, we were talking with Kev, and we were saying, like, initially they were saying they were going to do Deadpool 3. Now they're not. Rob Liefeld said they're probably not going to do Deadpool 3. And that sucks. It's a shame.
Yeah.
They're still going to release New Mutants because they're contractually obligated to. But it sucks that they want everything, and I think that's going to be bad for Marvel. They're going to have to keep everything all contained. Whereas if DC has it, I love Joker. I thought it was great, and if they can do things like that and then have their universe, it's like you don't feel the need to go see every single movie.
Yeah, and I would like to see some of the like Elseworlds stories told with the DC. There's a ton of good one-off stories that are out there that you could turn into movies, or you could, like they're doing with this HBO Max thing, make them for HBO Max. If you don't feel like it's going to be a huge blockbuster and you don't want to put $300 million into it, you could do a Superman Red Sun.
Yeah.
And put that on HBO Max, and you don't have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to do it.
It's just a what if.
It's a what if story. You could do what was it called? There was a version where Kal-El was raised by Thomas and Martha Wayne, and he became Batman. I can't remember what that was called, but it was basically Batman, but it was Kal-El. He had Superman powers, but he was Batman, and it's a good what if story. There's tons of those that you could do for something like HBO Max, and I like the fact that we're starting to see something like that, because, like I said, this would not be happening if it wasn't for HBO Max, and as far as they're concerned, they want as much original content as they can get. And that's if they did that, that would be their leg up. Especially if they want to compete with Disney Plus. How else are you going to compete with Disney Plus unless you bring in some of these DC,
right? And you got to put the money behind it.
Like I know they did they were going to do. I don't know if they actually made it. Weren't they going to do a Swamp Thing?
Well, they did. There's one episode, or
Didn't
was
they
it
cancel
the
it
whole
though?
season? Yeah,
they killed it. Like, you could do Swamp Thing with HBO Max,
and people apparently liked what was there, and they just
You could do Justice League Dark with HBO Max. Speaking of Justice League Dark, if you guys haven't seen Justice League Dark, the animated Apocalypse War, that is brutal. It's basically I don't want to ruin everything, but there's a lot of death. Let's just put it that way. Like, there are major DC characters that are just basically almost turned into cannon fodder, and that it's a brutal movie. But that's kind of stuff you could do, that like weird one-off oddball shit on HBO Max. I hope they do it.
What's the movie called with the evil Superman?
Red Sun.
So
well, I mean, no, you're talking about
it wasn't really
with the boy.
Brightburn.
That was a James Gunn movie, yeah.
Brightburn. That was good, yeah, I like that.
I
don't know how they got away with that though.
Yeah,
it was James Gunn.
How can they get away with that?
Because it was James Gunn, and he did Guardians of the Galaxy, and people are like, you know what, that made a lot of movie. Let's let him do what he wants.
But if you're WB, they didn't. I mean, I know they didn't use the same character names and all that stuff, but it is Superman.
But that's what like they were doing with Watchmen. Like Watchmen, they wanted to use established characters like Blue Beetle and all. Like Dr. Manhattan was going to be Superman, and I believe Night Owl is Blue Beetle.
Oh, what, going back all the way back to the original comic book?
The original concept, what Alan Moore wanted to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. and they were told no, so he had to create original characters.
Worked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's some other stuff though, like there's like I'm looking at the Invincible. I got the Invincible #1 on my desk. Invincible would be a good property if I don't know who owns the rights to it, but if a streaming service, whether it's HBO Max, I don't care who gets it, but HBO Max or Amazon Prime or somebody to take a comic book like that and turn that into a series would be freaking awesome. Invincible is my favorite. I don't know if you guys have read that.
no, I haven't.
I highly, highly recommend it. But there's tons of I mean, God, there's so much material out there that, we've said like, oh, I want to make that into a movie. Well, it's never happened. Well, now that these platforms are like battling each other for content on streaming, maybe we'll get a lot of this stuff. Why the Last Man? Great comic book series. That would make an awesome TV show. Like Walking Dead style TV show. Probably would end up being. You maybe not like 8 or 9 seasons like Walking Dead's turned into, because it doesn't seem like it wants to end.
It's struggling. Yeah,
it's going to be on forever.
I read the
with
comic
spin-offs.
beginning to end, and yeah, they've deviated so far from where the comic was.
I stopped watching it years ago when Negan showed up. I just lost interest in it.
I started watching it when Negan showed up, and then I stopped watching when I stopped watching that episode where God, they had what's her name come back. She was like a side character. God, I gotta Google her to see what her name was.
I stopped in the middle of it was after Negan got everybody, but the season where one of the main characters who didn't die in the comic book died.
That was Terra. When they had the Terra heavy episode, that's when I stopped watching.
I mainly stopped watching it because we stopped having cable here, just internet. So the only thing kept me watching it, I liked watching it live. And since I didn't have it live, it takes too much energy to search out for it to watch it later streaming. So I gave up. And those 6-month hiatuses, I'm like, oh boy, 6 months.
Yeah.
And today's
that format really needs to die.
Right.
That whole mid-season break thing, plus a lot of these shows like the CW Arrowverse shows, they order like 20 some episodes, and then they take that long break in the middle, and that's part of the reason why I lost interest in all those shows too. It's just like it's too much. Like I like the streaming platforms to be able to just say, okay, whether it's Mandalorian style where you get 1 episode a week, or it's, hey, here's the season, Netflix style, boom, there you go, have at it. I like both methods. I think it works. It's a lot better than here's 9 or 10 episodes. Hey, we're gonna be back in 4 months.
It keeps spoilers down too. People that like The Boys, like I wanted to watch that, and then people just started posting spoilers. And I was like, I'll watch it when I get around to it. But you get 1 episode at a time, and you're like, I can watch 1 episode.
Yeah, and even when they release all of them, I don't have a problem with if I'm into something, if I'm not gonna sit and binge it, but I can avoid the spoilers. I literally will not go on the internet and find those spoilers. I will avoid them at all costs. Unless someone's a dick and puts it right in my Facebook feed as I'm scrolling through, and boom, there it is. But if I see any articles that's about, I just don't click on them. I just avoid them.
YouTube used to have like a rule where people didn't put stuff in it was an unwritten rule where people didn't put stuff in the title and they didn't show certain thumbnails. Now they don't care. So while I'm scrolling through YouTube to see what's new been uploaded, you'll see like a major spoiler like right there the same night. Or why titles like why this should have been this way or why the movie ended like it ended. They
Mhm.
explain. But then they show like a major, usually it would be like a fake thumbnail, but now it's like a real shot from the movie that show major plot points.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? What? I don't think the Snyder Cut can hurt anything. I
Nah.
figured they put it out because everybody keeps saying they want it, and it was available. They probably don't cost that much to finish.
Yeah, and I don't think it hurts. You know, like people keep saying, like this is going to set a dangerous precedent. Well, first of all,
That's where I was going to get with this.
yeah,
My
what
last
is
question.
dangerous about it?
Yeah.
Tell me what is so dangerous about it. Take your pick of any movie. If they want to make a director's cut of it, director's cuts have been a thing
Right.
for years. There's nothing dangerous about it. No one's going to lose their life over a freaking director's cut of a movie.
There's a narrative online. I think that it's a vocal minority that states that, well, this sets the bad precedent that fans can demand things and they can get their way. But the thing is Justice League didn't make the money it should have. It really didn't. I mean, if you go on and see how much it made versus, I think it actually might have just barely broke even.
I think it lost. I think it legitimately lost money. I don't even think it broke even.
Yeah,
if you add in all the advertising dollars.
The budget was $300 million, and the box office was $657.9 million. I mean, if you go in and look at any of the Avengers movies, they were all billion-dollar movies. And Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, those characters, that to have them be in a movie and not even hit $1 billion, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what did The Dark Knight make?
I'm pretty sure Dark Knight.
$2 billion.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now.
I know it was over $1 billion.
It was over $1 billion.
Yeah, I know it was over $1 billion.
It was over $1 billion.
Yeah, I don't buy the whole dangerous bad precedent thing, because even if you go to that angle of like fans can demand what they want, again, tell me what's wrong about that. It's not like there were mobs of Snyder fans roaming the streets beating the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm.
No, they were just saying, "Hey, we want the Snyder cut. Show us the Snyder cut. We want it." They weren't bombing executives' offices. They weren't, making debt. I'm sure you're always going to be there's always going to be a group of assholes. Okay, I'm sure someone made a threat here and there, but it wasn't anything really credible. It wasn't something serious. There's always going to be that. With whatever the subject matter is, there's going to be people that do that. You can't avoid it. So giving giving a group of fans what they want,
it's an opportunity to make more money.
How is that bad? I think it's a win. I mean, there's people that spent their hard-earned money on advertisements for the Snyder Cut, to get the Snyder Cut. I think someone said they even rented a plane, that I guess that drags one of those like billboards in the air to advertise the executives for releasing the Snyder Cut. I mean, that's some dedication.
Fan of the show, Parts Former, states that if there's a precedent to allow a real cut later, will that allow studios to put out a half-baked product more so than they already do? And then he writes,
well, they're doing that with Star Wars, man. I mean, are we going to
get... He's going to join the show. He's like hopping on his computer. I don't see it that way. I see, like I've said a few times during this stream, I think it's a way for them to redeem it. I think it's a way for them to bring it back, and I think it's a vehicle for them to offer Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Flash, when Marvel isn't going to have anything. Rather than playing Me Too, they have a lot more to offer, in my opinion, than what Marvel does right now. And I think this is a good start.
Yeah. Especially if Marvel is going to basically neuter, if they're not going to do Deadpool 3, then that means the X-Men are going to be treated with like a kiddie thing. It's not going to be X-Men. I would want X-Men done in the style that Deadpool 3 is done, where it's done true to the comic books.
And there's just so many questions about how they're going to do X-Men in a world that embraces superheroes. Like post Civil War, how are they going to even introduce them? Are they, there's talks of them being like part of a parallel universe and introducing the Fantastic Family, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, and then having the X-Men come in from an alternate universe. But the whole thing about the X-Men is that they had powers and they're persecuted. Is it that they're going to be against the Slovakian Accords? I mean, it's kind of like, well, how are you going to do this? And now Captain America and Iron Man are gone. Thor's off-world. It's just.
I think it could be easy. I mean, people could start getting powers, and then you could see that they're all dangerous, and then somebody could come out and be like, "Oh, we got to do something about this." Like, first it was just a few handful of people with powers. Now it's like everybody.
Yeah.
So they could start trying to put something into place. But then how would they do established characters like Magneto and whatnot?
Right.
Well, they don't got to be old. Well, that's one thing I hated about the original X-Men movies.
Ian McKellen
and Magneto were so old. I'm like,
yeah. Well, Ian McKellen looked really old at the time. Patrick Stewart didn't. Patrick Stewart wasn't that old. He still looked basically like he did as Picard. Now he looks old as shit.
Yeah, he aged quick.
I remember for years people were like, Patrick Stewart hasn't aged today, and then you look at him now and it's like, I'm afraid to sneeze around the man.
Yeah, Picard. I'm like, how are they going to make another season out of this?
I don't know.
Give me my cane.
Number 1, I have to take a number 2. Wait, number 2's the dog. Oh.
I've already done it. Sorry.
Look who it is.
Oh, special guest late in the show, replacing KillaKev.
Well, he's walking in the dark.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hope he has clothes on.
I need to. I can see a shirt, but I can't see pants.
There he is.
Okay.
You forgot his hat.
First off, yeah, because I had to.
Because he was probably in bed with Katie, and he was like, "Oh, that motherfucker Joe just made fun of Star Wars. I gotta run downstairs."
It's because Jordan's like, "Here's Partsformer, fan of the show." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, fan of the show.
I know what words to say to get people to join this.
No, I didn't join earlier because I really don't have that strong of opinion. In fact, I've only seen the original version once, so it really didn't. I didn't have much to add. I just wanted to come on and do counterpoint to that. I get what Joe had explained earlier, kind of the situation with, with the Snyder cut and why it's happening the way it is. I feel like you made a joke about Star Wars, but that, Last Jedi is what it's always going to be, whether you like it or not. So I guess that's sort of up to fans whether or not they want to accept that particular vision. Until what? Until the Abrams cut comes out. But they've never. Again, I guess that's more likely to happen now that this is a thing, and then I guess Suicide Squad is a thing now with the cuts. So I'm just thinking, like, I would worry about. I want a director's vision to be what makes it to the screen as much as anybody. That's what the goal is. The person, lacking any studio intervention. I want the thing that's presented to be as close as the original vision that they want it to be as possible. And then you have studios that intervene and make shit up and do a bunch of
point about
stuff.
The Donner cut. That's
right. My worry is, and I put this in the chat, like, we bitch now about video games that know they can go back and fix stuff later, so they push shit out as fast as they can. And I worry that they're going to say, here's a film that's half-assed. We know that y'all are going to get a director's cut later, so we're going to get the stupid people that goes out and watches this and pays this money right off the bat and can't wait, and then we're going to double dip later and get you to go back out into the theater and buy another ticket for the director's cut.
What you're saying is if T is ever tired during a chill review, he can go back and do a chill review.
And he could re-edit it, and he could call it. he can call it what would you call it? T re-chilled, chilled again, the colder review. I don't know.
Revisited.
Chill revisited. Like in one of your last reviews, you were saying how it was the Red Bull. You were talking about how you really liked it, but you were tired and sounded.
Mm-hmm.
You could go back now and redub it as the T-Man cut, and you could put a new voiceover where you're super enthusiastic about it, and then we don't have to watch it again.
I have a ton of footage where I've done the whole review, then I watch it, and then I scrap it and do the whole review over again.
No, see, that's dedication. A theater's not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have T-Man's dedication. They should. See, you should go into pictures, and you could steer the ship on a lot of these things. Then the Snyder cut would have been what was posted, what was put out to theaters to begin with.
I might call it the plastic addict cut. He loves all that extra stuff, and I'm like, nobody's gonna sit through all this, so I scrapped it. Like where I show like 1 billion comparisons and all this.
People eat that stuff up, man.
Well, I don't think we have to worry about, getting all those like Star Wars redone and all that stuff. Like, I don't think they're gonna. Video games is one thing because there is a whole already. There's like microtransactions and DLC that they know they can make money on. But I don't think any studio is going to intentionally make a film subpar. Because
they do it all the time, though. There's films that get pushed out.
I disagree. I think that,
especially we're talking about blockbusters. It's one thing to say like we're just going to make this rom-com, but I don't think we're going to see like, oh, okay, we're going to make the new Star Wars movie, but you know what? We're going to make it kind of shitty, and because we know we'll just put a new version out on Disney Plus anyway. Like, what's the major incentive for them? Now, what I could see them doing is say, okay, here's the new Star Wars movie, have it go out to theaters, but then when you get the Disney Plus version, which you're going to get the Disney Plus version before you get it anywhere else, you're going to get the Ultimate Edition, or you're going to get like more, you're going to get like maybe a web series, Disney Plus series before, like the build up to the movie. Then the movie will come out in theaters. Then after the movie, you're going to get a Disney Plus thing of after the movie. Then you're going to get an Ultimate Edition of everything together on Disney Plus. I could see them doing something like that, but not make a subpar movie.
It's interesting too. It's like, I think like earlier you were talking about Bruce, or someone was talking about Bruce Timm and wishing that he would have. Yeah. So like Dave Filoni, right? I think he has legitimized the prequel trilogy. And,
there's that prequel. Yeah.
And I really think the work he did with Clone Wars and Rebels really went and legitimized a lot of the stuff that didn't make sense in the prequel trilogy. And I think if you take that mentality and you can revisit things, right? And maybe that's the mentality for the Snyder Cut, right? Going back and legitimizing it, adding little things here and there that people go back and say, you know what, that actually, those parts make sense to me now because you've peppered in things that make what originally didn't work.
That's a little bit different of approach though, because I think past the original
that to the sequel trilogy.
What's that?
They're going to be doing that to the sequel trilogy.
What I was going to say was that they past the original Star Wars trilogy, the mythos and the story has always been beyond the movies now. The prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, it's like I know we have differing opinions on this, but like the books and the comics and the fill-in material do sort of fill out that world.
Why?
And I think comic books obviously existed well before comic book movies did. So you already have that in place for Marvel and DC. So I don't know. I mean, but there's a difference between sort of backfilling and like, shaping a story that already exists as opposed to going back and revamping your actual narrative, your primary narrative from the get. I mean, we're talking about scrapping an entire cut and saying, forget that. We're going to remake some scenes, rework some stuff, put new characters in that weren't there before or that were intended to be there, and then relaunching it. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I'm not sure that I don't believe that it doesn't set a bad precedent. I might be on that fence one where I could see it being abused. I'll put it that way.
But
I don't think movies theaters are going to start. I mean, movie producers are going to start doing that to every movie.
I don't
think
think
they're
so
just
either.
doing it.
No. It can only be
because,
movies that they're going to get the money back for sure.
I think
mean,
they're
'cause-
doing it this time because of the unfortunate situation, and people want to actually see his original vision.
Sure. Like if they push out a really shitty Leprechaun 16, no one's going to look for the Leprechaun Snyder's cut.
Because that was like what Lucas always said. Lucas always viewed Star Wars as a living work, is what he pedaled back and said. Like when the late '90s cuts came out, he was like, Star Wars is never finished.
But look what happened to that. Then you splinter the fandom, and the people that die hard want the original cuts, the people that accept the new, the new mythos. And I got to tell you, like, I'm one of the ones that I love. Like, give it to me to make the edit, and I can pick and choose what needs to stay in, because some of that shit needs to go. Like,
for me,
the singing scene in the middle of Jabba's palace, that shit needs to get axed.
Yeah.
Like, whoever came up with that needs to get kicked in the balls.
The bantha pooping and
Banta's poop, man. I'm all right with that. Like,
but
everybody
for it to
poops. Babies poop. That happens.
I don't need that in my Star Wars. Like, I don't need
like
that.
The Outrider taking off from Mos Eisley, that's awesome. I like that. Some of the special effects fixes that they did for modern, I like that too. It's just some of the scenes, man. Like, and again, like now that Disney's, I'm getting everybody off tangent here, but now that the Disney owns it, I keep hoping they'll announce that they're releasing the original cuts, but not yet. All right. I'm gonna let y'all get back to the Snyder cut. I just wanted to put in there and say my piece, and now I'm out. Thank you, guys.
Well, I mean, I think we've pretty well said everything that we need to say, haven't we?
I think
is that
so
a good
too.
jumping off point?
I think the last thing is, are we going to watch this? And for me, it's a yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably
Now,
not.
I also.
What if I give you my password?
Yeah, that'll watch it.
That changes his opinion.
It depends on how much HBO Max is going to cost and how many months I'm going to have to stay subscribed to get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. After it's on HBO Max, let's say it's one movie, are they going to put it in theaters for like a weekend?
It's hard to say because I don't
think theaters will let them.
Well, I disagree. I think it's interesting. It's going to be on a theater by theater basis because there's no movies coming out right now. And for states that are reopening, they're just doing like Fathom events. They're showing old movies, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, but we're talking a year. We're talking a year from now.
Yeah, it's a year from now. But I think we're going to see, because movies haven't been filming and a lot of movies have moved to VOD format.
That is true. There's going to be a gap.
Yeah.
There's going to be
TV next year is going to be crazy too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of Impractical Jokers, and I was talking to Lex the other night. I was like, "How the hell because like, have you any of you guys watched Impractical Jokers?"
No.
It's it's like one part Jackass and one part Candid Camera, and it's like, how are they going to do these things where you got to be up on people or doing things that are practical jokes to people in public? How are you going to do that with the way the world is right now?
I've seen a few episodes of that.
It's great. I love the show, man. I don't know,
man. There's there's all this on the internet today about people at the beaches, and it's like, dude, like,
I think
as soon as everything, as soon as everything's open, as soon as that sign flips around and it's open, and that bar serving drinks, people are right out there.
But I'm just saying, you're gonna have
no masks, nothing. They're just like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you're gonna have a six month span most places where that shit doesn't happen, where you can't film things, where people have been just kind of off. So it's gonna delay things. We're gonna see movies and shows and TV, it's all going to be delayed. And we're going to see an interesting time. Like, I can't wait to go back to a movie theater. Like I was talking about with like the experience and like I have a great TV. My sound system is the greatest, but like, you know, like we were talking about, like I like being able to focus. I like being in a movie theater. I like the experience. I like taking my girlfriend, going to a restaurant, sitting in the movie theater, and there's just a special feeling to it. I like that, regardless whether it's a movie I've seen before or not. So
For me, I can wait. Like, it has to be a big, like the next time I go to the movie theater is going to be Wonder Woman 84. It has to be a big event, big blockbuster movie to get me to go to the movie theater. I don't just go to the movies every so many weekends to see whatever movie's coming out, and it's like I know ahead of time, like, oh, okay, this movie's coming out.
yeah,
I'm gonna get my tickets because I know I'm gonna go see that movie. Or like even like with the Star Wars movies, like I went and saw the Star Wars movies with Matt, and we ordered those tickets well in advance,
yeah.
and they were the big events. But for like if movie theaters opened next weekend and there was no big blockbuster,
What are you gonna do? What's gonna get you in there?
yeah, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I know there are people like you that like to go to the movie theaters. They just like to do it.
Well, even me,
But
it's like you have
I
to
can
have
wait.
something in there.
And I
like-
could watch these movies at home. I have no problem. Like, I got a projector downstairs. I don't have a great sound system. I got a sound bar, but it
There's
does
certain-
the job for me. I
Yeah.
can put the popcorn in the microwave, and
There's certain
and I don't
things that
have to
would
pay
get me-
$10 for a bottle of water.
certain things that would get me in the theater. Like if they were showing Jurassic Park in a movie theater, because I have fond memories. That was the first movie I ever saw multiple times. Terminator 2. You're gonna get me in a movie theater. You're gonna show the original Star Wars trilogy, Lord of the Rings, things like that.
Yeah,
Certain things you're gonna get me in a movie theater for.
Yeah, there's some movies that I probably wouldn't mind going back to the movie theater and seeing in the movie theater.
Yeah, but they're gonna have
Mainly
to hype
movies
it up.
that I didn't get a chance to see, or
That
I was
too.
too young. Like movies like
Scarface,
well, yeah, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is a great one to see in the theater.
Yeah, like I don't think my parents ever took me to the movie theaters all that much. I
saw the
can't think-
Goonies.
When I was little, I don't really recall what movies I saw in the movie theater.
Yeah.
So a lot of those movies that were when I was younger, I wouldn't mind going to see.
You know what else would be a golden opportunity?
Hmm.
Like some of the anime movies, like getting the My Hero movies in there.
Yeah, because they only put them out for like a couple days.
Yeah.
It would make sense for them to put
Yeah,
stuff like that
given
out.
given the fact that like people can't really go, that they're not pumping things out, like getting some of that stuff in there would make sense, and it would bring in a crowd.
Yeah.
Like the last movie we saw was the Impractical Jokers movie, and that was like an event type movie. It was like a roadshow movie, and the theater was packed. And that was like mid-February. And it's crazy. This is, I think, the longest in my life I've ever gone without going to the movies. But that's the thing. I think since we've all been doing the show, it's like I think I've been the one to go to the movies more than anybody else on the show.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But it's just, I guess 1 out of 5 people, it's ingrained in them. Well, we lost T, but
yeah, he dropped out.
I think
he was upset because we weren't asking for T-Man Chill Reviews to be Fathom events at the movie theater.
Could you imagine going to the theater and man, this toy sucks. Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, I paid $15 and it's over in 15 minutes, and I'm just hearing click the videos. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for tonight. As a reminder to all of our Figure Action audience, make sure you tune in this Thursday. We're going to have a special guest, one of the OG Transformers toy reviewers, and that's the 28th of May. Bolt Matrix, good friend of ours. He's going to be joining us. We're going to have him on the show, so come prepared with a bunch of questions for him. It's going to be a fun night. Really looking forward to that show. So tune in this Thursday, special episode with Bolt Matrix. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell so you can see when we go live with additional B-sides. We're going to try and make it a new thing. Kev writes in, Zero, when you start having kids and you have to pay for more than 2 tickets, try going to the movies every week. That'll slow down.
He's got a point there. When
No,
I take my
because
whole plan out.
we have, so that's the thing is Lex's parents are definitely going to want those kids. So we're going to be like, hey, you're dropping off with No and Yaya.
I hope if you have that option,
Yeah, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take those date nights.
Because I've taken all the family out to the movies, and we don't do it all the time. So like when we go, I don't mind. They can all get their snacks and everything. But let me tell you something. You think some of the prices that we pay for some of our pieces of our collection, like you think at Constructor over there.
Yeah,
you take the family out to you take the family out to go see a movie and dinner, and that's what you're spending.
You better fucking eat those chicken tenders. All right. Well, that'll do it for tonight. It's been great having you all. Everybody that popped in the chat, thank you so much. And we will see you all on Thursday night. Again, be sure to tune in. Bring some questions. It's going to be a good evening. T-Man, Matt, Joe, Kevin, thank you guys for being part of the conversation tonight. Everybody else, have a good night.
See y'all.